And we're live. Welcome to another episode of Interchain FM, a regular podcast covering all things blockchain interoperability. I'm your host, Tango Unchained, and today we are joined by Tushar, Abhitesh, and Mikhail from Persistence. And we're going to talk all about Persistence, what they've done with the pstake airdrop, as well as their Persistence zone and what they're currently introducing in their new product suite with commodities, synthetic assets, and so much more. So let's give a round of intros. Can you guys start?
Absolutely. My name is Tushar. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Persistence. I lead everything on the business end of things prior to Persistence. I've done different things in the industry. So been on the media side of things through a podcast as well called Decrypt Asia, and have been on the fund management side of things through a fund called Lunex Ventures, which was the crypto arm of a traditional venture capital fund based out of Singapore called Golden Gate Ventures. Super excited to be on the show, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. I'm Avitesh Singh, and I lead the marketing efforts at Persistence and have been part of the team since the very early days. Before joining Persistence, stumbled upon Cosmos early 2019 and started exploring what can be done. And through that exploration, met Tushar and Dipanshu, who were also working on Cosmos. I, in past, have helped multiple organizations such as Google, Facebook, ACM to build their developer communities, and have been very active in the developer space for last 5 years. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Mikhail and I lead strategy and BD at Persistence. Have been involved in a bunch of things that we've done in the past, including stake drop, now heavily focused on pstake and the mechanism design and go to market and stuff like that. So very excited to be here.
Yeah, and thanks for being here. So, I want to go back to the origin story of Persistence because you guys started in Southeast Asia as a commodities exchange called Comdex, right? So, I want to understand how you guys started there and how you guys ended up as Persistence.
Yeah, absolutely. So, high level, at least personally for me, what the origin story was that I was working at Lunex as the first employee. We were betting on a bunch of startups, both from a kind of equity side, so the picks and shovels of crypto, as well as certain investments, both in the primary and secondary markets. I wanted to bet on India at some level. The thought process behind that was that India has the third largest number of unicorns globally after the US and China. But 80% of Indian unicorns were born after the year 2010, almost 10 to 15 years after startups of similar sizes came about in the US and China. So, from my perspective, a lot of folks in India have that talent, that ambition, that hunger um, to really build large scale projects and organizations, but typically happens with a bit of a lag. So I wanted Lunex to bet on the Indian ecosystem, but I think from a timing perspective was a little bit early. So through that, I would come down to India for multiple hackathons and multiple events. And that's how I ended up meeting the folks who were beginning to work on Comdex, which is the commodity exchange that you're talking about. We tried building Comdex on different platforms, including on Ethereum or Waves, which is primarily driven out of Russia. But over a period of time, the application-specific blockchain philosophy of Cosmos kind of appealed to us, became early Cosmos community members, and that's how at the so Comdex is at the application level, and so from a protocol level, Persistence came about, which is a tenement-based chain, and we have our own SDK built on top of the Cosmos SDK. And to talk about the ecosystem as a whole, in addition to Comdex, which is a third-party application, we decided to not only work at the infrastructural level, but also sort of vertically integrate up to the application level in-house, and that's how pstake came about, which is our liquid staking application. And the third thing that we're working on is Asset Mantle, which is more in terms of interoperability within the NFT space. So those are the sort of the key initiatives within the quote unquote persistence ecosystem as a whole.
All right, so that's a lot to unpack there. You listed NFTs as a new initiative as well as liquid staking, right? As people know, if you've been following the Cosmos ecosystem, liquid staking is sort of this synonymous idea with staking derivatives, which is the idea that you could create liquidity even out of bonded assets that are utilized for security on some underlying chain. And so, if we could create a liquid derivative off of that, the idea is that you could earn additional yield on top of the staked asset. So you get growth on growth on growth, and you could not miss out on yield farming opportunities by staking, while simultaneously lending your stake to the security of the underlying blockchain. So that's really, really bullish for the Cosmos ecosystem. Let's talk about that. You guys just did a pstake airdrop to ATOM and XPRT holders. What does that mean? What's the mechanism behind it?
Yeah, so before going into the airdrop itself, you hit the nail on the head in terms of the application itself. And I think we couldn't have done a better job at explaining what pstake does. But yeah, essentially, there's a whole bunch of folks that are now using osmosis. And if we look at the atom osmo pair, for example, or the xprt atom pair, fundamentally end users today have to decide between staking their atoms or supplying liquidity on osmosis to earn transaction fees from transactions happening on the DEX and liquidity mining for being a liquidity provider. But what if you could, have the cake and eat it too? And so essentially, that's what we're trying to do. We just went to market with STK Atom, and we'll be rolling out other tenement-based assets. So the next asset that we'll be rolling out is XPRT, and then we're in touch with a bunch of other tenement-based foundations, and we'll be rolling out multiple assets over the coming weeks and months. So essentially, that's pstake. It's on app.pstake.finance. I'll let Mikhail jump in and talk about the airdrop.
Yep. So the airdrop it's fairly straightforward. If you guys participated in the stake drop, which was again a drop to anyone who was staking their atom, for a period of, I think, 2 months. Yeah. So if you're staking atom, you received an XPRT airdrop, but for that you had to, claim your XPRT. For that you had to send a magic transaction, which is what we call it. It's just essentially it's like sending a transaction to a dedicated Cosmos Hub wallet that we were custodying, and you just send 0.01 atoms or so, and in the memo field you just input your XPRT or the persistence address, and we just verify that address and send XPRT as soon as after the TG happened. So after the TG of XPRT, we distributed the XPRT to all the participants of stake drop, very much similar to that. The pstake airdrop, although the difference here is that pstake is an ERC20 token. So people who were staking or holding atoms on the 2nd of September were eligible or are eligible to receive pstake. And how this airdrop works is a bit different to the stake drop, and it is very much similar to osmosis. How osmosis did the airdrop, but with a very basic difference that osmosis, there was a multiplier that kind of incentivized takers more than holders of tokens. In our case, it's a bit different, where we incentivize holders of atom more than stakers of atom. So it's again a fair drop itself, with people who are holding minimum of X amount of atoms and a maximum of Y amount of atoms are eligible to receive this airdrop. But the point here is that we want people who are not staking atoms to start staking their atoms, whether it is directly or via pstake. And pstake is a huge opportunity for them, right? Because people who are just holding on to atoms, are the most important reason for them not to stake is probably liquidity, or they don't want to face that 21-day unbonding period, which is huge, in fact, in crypto terms, right? So what we did was we added 2.5 times multiplier for people who are just holding on to atoms, and we are incentivizing them to come and use the pstake platform to stake their atoms. That's the high level mechanism for both XPRT stakers as well as atom stakers.
And what's the difference between XPRT and pstake, other than where the tokens reside? What's the difference
It's
between their utility?
Yeah, so high level speaking, what we did was we've taken along our journey, we've taken a lot of inspiration from how Terra has evolved. So if you look at the Terra ecosystem, they have this tenement based protocol. They have Chai as a third party application, which is focused on quote unquote real world use cases, which is basically e-commerce payments. And then if spoken to Do Kwon quite a bit, and he's a close friend. Over a period of time, Do Kwon realized that in this is narrative sort of in 2018, 2019 about solving sort of or real world asset tokenization or getting into real world sort of quote unquote payments. But I think what we realized as well is that just the universe within the crypto ecosystem as sort of a bottoms up movement was large enough. So in that context, you have Anchor protocol and Mirror protocol as applications within the Terra ecosystem that have been built by the Terra team themselves. And so similarly for us, although we're a little bit behind Terra in terms of development, but essentially we have persistence as a tenement-based protocol. We have Commodities as a third-party application, which was initially focused on quote-unquote real-world asset tokenization and real-world solving this real-world borrowing lending markets across against bills of lading as collateral, but has since sort of pivoted to focusing exclusively on synthetic commodities because they ran into a lot of trouble in terms of implementations of on-chain stuff with a lot of human inputs and off-chain data being input, and the dropping of the ball that happens in terms of this human interaction with the off-chain world meeting the on-chain world. Anyway, pstake and Asset Mantle in that context, pstake being our liquid staking application and Asset Mantle being our NFT play, is something that kind of sprung up as in-house applications. And taking a leaf from Terra's playbook, we decided to have application-specific tokens as well to incentivize certain activities at the application layer, in addition to bootstrapping things at the infrastructure level in the background on persistent. So it's and similar to Terra, what we do is the fees that is accumulated at the application level on pstake, Commodities, and other applications, Asset Mantle, a certain percentage of that fees flows to the XPRT stakers. So a certain percentage of the fees stays at the application level, but part of that fees flows to the XPRT stakers. So again, taking a leaf from what worked really well for AKT, for the Akash network folks, we decided to go with a slightly higher inflation model. So currently it's about 35% inflation for XPRT, which keeps halving every couple of years with a max cap on the supply. And essentially what we want to do is over time ensure that there's sufficient activity happening at the application layer so that as the inflation goes down at the protocol level for persistence, the financial activity at the application level can subsidize the validators. So, and on a sort of 10-year horizon, I would say that's how we would define success as well, that if we're able to generate enough financial activity at the application level so that you don't need inflation at the protocol level, that's kind of success for us. So that's kind of how we're gunning for things, and that's kind of how the value accrual flows to the XPRT stakers.
Got it. Kind of a tangent here, but I'd like to add a commentary about how this is the Bitcoiner's perspective of how the fee market will sufficiently accommodate, or sorry, compensate rather, the miners after the block rewards are completely mined through. Anyway, totally tangent, but yeah, great. Thank you for your high level explanation. So if I'm understanding correctly, persistence, the Cosmos zone is, does it have smart contracting enabled? Because I'm imagining all of these products that you're talking about as like small applications in your state machine, if that's correct.
No, we have Cosm Wasm enabled, but we're choosing to go down the modular approach and actually create modules instead of using Cosm Wasm.
Okay, modules. Are they modules
so these
in the?
so these are going to be modules in the persistence SDK. So similar to how you have yeah.
In the Cosmos SDK. Got it. I understand. I see. Okay, so again, high level overview about how I'm just going to extrapolate that the persistence SDK works just the exact same as Cosmos SDK with different modules.
Yes. No. So persistence SDK is essentially has all the modules that Cosmos SDK has, plus it has a few other modules that we have developed over a period of time. So, for example, the NFT module, which Abhidej can talk about, is something that has been built on top in addition to what already exists within the Cosmos SDK. So Cosmos SDK is fairly general purpose and caters to a whole bunch of use cases. Whereas what we're trying to do with the persistence SDK is go after certain very targeted use cases, again, in alignment with the application chain specific philosophy of Cosmos, where what we will try to do at the persistence level is go after certain asset classes. So whether that is liquid staking, and so having a staking module within our SDK, on top of all the modules that exist within the Cosmos SDK, having an NFT module. So that basically allows us to go after these two sort of asset classes in-house, and then facilitating some of the use cases that external application builders like Comdex may need. Essentially trying to understand what their requirements would be and trying to develop those functionalities at the SDK level itself.
And is the thinking that these other application developers are going to utilize your SDK and launch an app on the persistence chain, or would they be launching a separate chain that is interoperable with persistence?
I mean, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so to answer that and to add what Tushar mentioned, it's like what persistence is trying to do is essentially the interoperability that has been already laid down by Cosmos is something that we wouldn't want to reinvent. But there are certain use cases such as developing marketplaces or dexes such as commodity dexes, which Comdex has developed. Creating that currently today has to be put out too many. Our development process is very tedious, and you have to write a lot of business logic when you're looking from the perspective of Cosmos itself. But what we have done, gone out there and have written all these modules, whether it's asset tokenization, whether it's asset fractionalization, all those modules we have written on top of Cosmos SDK. And that caters to these very curated use cases. And this is general purpose marketplace. Any sort of marketplace can be created. And Asset Mental is, if you look at from Eagle's viewpoint, it is basically combination of all these modules together, where Asset Mental itself can cater to any marketplace. Right now, those marketplaces would be majorly for NFTs because you could create not just on top of Asset Mental, but you could actually have an independent chain, as you mentioned, which can interoperate then with persistence chain. Right, so it's basically bringing different asset classes as like different zones, and then all of them operating together with persistence zone or persistence hub, where hub and spoke model is very similar to how is with Cosmos. And this is also from the thought process that each of these asset classes would require their own business logic and operational like business requirements, and they should not interfere with other zones. So like very customized. But if you look at what role persistence chain plays in that majorly, is that the persistence hub sort of acts as that exposure point for people to operate in these different asset classes, and then sort of is, and the migration between these asset classes then becomes much simpler on the persistence chain level. And other thought process is where we just like we are operating in Cosmos ecosystem, and Cosmos ecosystem itself is evolving very fast, where now we also want to see as how do we connect Cosmos ecosystem with other chains, or persistence ecosystem with other chains. And pstake is a great example of that, which is operating on Ethereum side, and multiple application where we eventually build these connections directly or indirectly with other ecosystems. So it's like creating that exposure for people to go just beyond persistence ecosystem, just beyond Cosmos ecosystem, and have these applications, whether directly connected with persistence hub or through an additional chain that eventually connects to persistence hub.
Mm-hmm. So let's segue into your ERC20 pstake token. What's the idea behind launching it as an ERC20, as in on Ethereum? Is there a bridge in order for it to be interoperable with persistence? And yeah, what's the value proposition of it being on Ethereum?
Yeah, so when we started building pstake, there was nothing from a financial application perspective in the Cosmos ecosystem. So if you issue an SDK Atom on, say, persistence or any IBC enabled Cosmos chain, the staked representative coin still doesn't have any use case. So our thought process was that we wanted to ensure, as a very first step, sufficient liquidity, because the whole point of building a staked representative coin is to have sufficient liquidity for it and build other use cases such as borrowing, lending. And so from that perspective, Ethereum made the most amount of sense for us in terms of liquidity and composability. So even right now, the P Atom and SDK Atom, I think, which you mentioned just before we began this conversation. So essentially, what is P Atom and what does the user journey look like for pstake end users today? So if you have atoms in your Kepler wallet, essentially, or on the Cosmos Hub itself, what pstake application allows you to do is essentially convert those into P atoms. P atoms are essentially wrapped atoms, which are ERC20 coins, similar to WBTC or NBTC. And then you can choose to convert these P atoms into STK atoms. Both P atoms and STK atoms are exactly equal to one atom. The only difference in property between STK and P atoms is that if you're holding STK atoms, you generate P atoms as rewards, or unstaked atoms as rewards. So it's very similar to staking atoms at the Cosmos Hub level itself, where when you stake atoms, your rewards are coming in the form of unstaked atoms. So we've essentially replicated that process on the Ethereum side. And what we're trying to do now is bootstrap liquidity for STK atoms on Sushi, which is the Ethereum-based DEX. So STK Atom ETH pair on Sushi now has decent amount of liquidity, and based on some of the conversations that we've been having with some of the larger Atom holders, we'll expect that number to sort of go up very rapidly. And I think by end October or mid-November or so, I think the STK Atom ETH pair is possibly going to be in sort of the top 20 assets in terms of TVL on Sushi itself. So essentially trying to create markets for Atom on the Ethereum side. In parallel, what we're trying to do is now that we have Osmosis, we have Gravity DEX, we have Umi launching, and so many things happening in the Cosmos ecosystem. What we want to start doing is start issuing STK atoms on persistence chain, so that these assets can flow over to Osmosis. And so imagine having an STK Atom STK XPRT pair, where not only are you liquidity mining because you've supplied these assets as liquidity on Osmosis, but you're also earning staking rewards for both sides, for XPRT and Atom. So that's kind of the high level thought process from our perspective. So the design decision to actually have pstake as an ERC20 coin stemmed from the fact that the asset issuance for the staked representative coins was going to happen as an ERC20 coin. And it just becomes much easier to incentivize folks in an ERC20 coin if the staked representative coin is an ERC20 coin as well. Now, of course, with the Cosmos ecosystem booming and sort of burgeoning, we want to, ensure that we do asset issuance on the native sort of, IBC enabled Cosmos chain as well. And to facilitate this conversion from Atom to P-Atom, we have created a custom bridge over time. Once Gravity Bridge is live, will be, if the implementation is working well and kind of suits our requirements, we'll be kind of using that as well, since it's probably, going to be a sort of more universal solution. So that's kind of high level, some of the design constraints that we thought of, and hence decided to come up with, pstake as an ERC20 coin.
Understood. So you guys are the ones responsible for launching atoms on Sushi, QuickSwap, Alpha Homora, all of these DEX and aggregators alike.
Right now, just Sushi, not on Alpha Homora yet, or on QuickSwap.
I saw Atom on QuickSwap as well as pstake on Alpha Homora.
So what's happening with Alpha Homora is something else altogether, where we're doing the Alpha Launchpad, which is essentially a way. So what Mikhail talked about, which was the stake drop campaign that we did for XPRT in Q4 2020, which was a resounding success, where more than $1 billion worth of staked Atom, Luna, and a couple of other coins were participating in this stake drop campaign for XPRT, which allowed us to sort of bootstrap our initial community. What we're trying to do now with pstake is, because we're tapping on the Ethereum side, and historically, from a community perspective, we've been really strong on the Cosmos side of things, but not so strong on the Ethereum side of things. We're tapping into Alpha's stakers to do sort of a stake drop for them, where stakers of Alpha coin will be getting a certain number of pstake coins, and that allows us to bootstrap the initial users and community members, which are these hardcore DeFi users that use Alpha Homora. But QuickSwap, I don't know how Atom landed up there. I think it was most definitely not us.
Sif Chain. Sif Chain has integrated.
Right. So the Sif, correct. So Sif Chain guys have taken XPRT there as well, which we didn't know of, which was quite interesting to see.
Love it. Let's go back to P-Atoms, because I wanted to ask you a question about the trust model. How are P-Atoms minted and burned? So you said you have a custom bridging protocol. How does that work? Tell us about it.
Yep. So the P bridge, so the bridges that we see today are usually just, like bridges to peg assets. You can't really have any interchain transaction happening through those bridges. But P bridge, which is what we call it, it's the persistence bridge, is sort of a different bridge in that respect, where it caters to interchain transactions as well. So something like interchain staking, what happens is the bridge relays events from the Ethereum side to the Cosmos side. So if there's a transaction that let's say is, so now you have STK Atom on the Ethereum side. What happens here is that STK Atom, when it's minted, P atoms are burned and STK atoms are minted, but the underlying deposited atoms have to be staked onto the core Cosmos hub chain itself, right? So that transaction then happens through the bridge itself, which is then, so on the Ethereum side, whatever transactions happening, the bridge listens to the events and relays that onto the Cosmos side, and the staking transaction happens. Similarly, claim rewards and all those things happen through the bridge itself. The bridge is, I would say, yes, at some level it is a centralized bridge sort of, but what we've done is the signing mechanism of the bridge is an MPC based, threshold signature signing mechanism, where we have onboarded a bunch of validators, such as, all the major validators from the Cosmos ecosystem, such as Stakefish, Figment, Chorus One, Cost Station, and I'm forgetting a couple of names here.
Everstake.
And our own validator Audit One. So these 6 validators are responsible for signing these transactions, and so the signing mechanism is decentralized at some level. obviously, as we go on, we want to have more validators on the bridge itself to have more security for the bridge, and how we build skin in the game for these validators to ensure that they don't act maliciously, although they have huge social capital at risk in the form of their reputation. The assets that are staked via pstake are delegated to these validators in an equal proportion currently, and that can obviously be modified in the future through governance proposals and things like that. So yeah.
Got it. And how about on the Ethereum side? Is it just a multi-stakeholder contract?
So I don't think we have any assets that are deposited on the Ethereum side, right? So it's on the Ethereum side, it's all about minting assets.
Oh, it's one way. It's one way.
So, essentially what happens is, you're depositing assets into a, Cosmos address, which is then being, controlled by these validators. But on the Ethereum side, you're just minting these assets. And so like Nikhil said, instead of having a bridge that is only just pegging assets, the bridge is also listening to staking on staking transactions on both sides. So on the Ethereum side, we don't actually need to do that, because we're basically, anytime an atom, anytime anyone converts p atoms to STK atoms, the bridge just listens to that and essentially stakes atoms. Anytime someone's converting STK atoms back into p atoms, the bridge kind of relays that transaction onto the Cosmos side, and an unstaking transaction happens. So on the Ethereum side, we don't have any of these problems. The problems happen on the Cosmos side of things, which Nikhil talked about in terms of how we have TSS and an MPC-based external service provider that's helping us secure the bridge.
Got it. Okay, so you guys also alluded to STK atoms. Can we talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so STK atoms are exactly, Nikhil, do you want to take that?
No, please go on.
Yeah, STK atoms are essentially equivalent exactly to one atom. The only difference, like I mentioned, between STK atom and p atoms is that if you hold STK atoms, you keep accruing p atoms. You can think of p atoms as like unstaked atoms. And so as long as you're holding STK atoms, you're accruing p atoms as rewards, which is exactly how things work at the POS level, where once you stake atoms, your rewards are coming in the form of unstaked atoms. So it's just basically replicating what happens at the protocol level onto the Ethereum side. And so there were a few design constraints and design considerations that we went through in terms of designing this two-token model, as opposed to STETH, for example, that Lido uses, which is a rebase token model. We decided to go with this two-token model because from a composability perspective, it becomes a little bit better, because once you have a rebase coin, there are constant token balance AMMs like Uniswap and SushiSwap that do not support rebase coins. And hence we decided to go with the two-token model. That's why we see the STETH pool only on Curve as far as Lido is concerned, and not on Sushi or Uni. So these are some design. There's also a couple of innovative ways where, in addition to bootstrapping sufficient liquidity for STK atoms through a DEX, we also want to create another product, which is kind of like a marketplace where you're connecting holders of STK atoms and P atoms to not have to wait for 21 days for unbonding. So essentially, it's a marketplace matching folks who have different requirements in terms of what unbonding periods are they able to like sort of withstand, although that's not the correct word, but what kind of unbonding periods do they want? So I think keeping all these kind of things in mind, we decided to go with this two-token model experiment, which has been working out interestingly for us. We have kind of internally had heated debates in terms of what model is the best one, keeping tenement-based chains in mind. Of course, there are non-tenement-based chains that have staking and unstaking, work in very different ways, and not have a 21-day unbonding period. So the way pstake has been designed right now has been very specific to tenement-based assets. Yeah, from our perspective, we're super excited about it. I think today, thus far, I think DeFi perspective, DEXs and borrowing lending platforms are two use cases that have found great product market fit, and that is reflected in the TVLs. I think as ETH kind of transitions from POW to POS, a lot of people are going to find out about staking to begin with. And then, the next thing that they're going to be excited about, in our opinion, is going to be liquid staking. And so we're trying to think sort of 6 to 12 months ahead and trying to anticipate what the market is going to need and create products from that perspective.
And what can people do with pstake today, and what should they be able to expect to do with it in the future in 6 to 12 months, let's say?
Yeah, so what the end user journey looks like right now is, if you have atoms, you bring your atoms, convert them into P atoms by signing a transaction through Kepler. Once you've converted to P atoms and you're in the Ethereum ecosystem, all the transactions can be signed through MetaMask. So you can convert your P atoms into STK atoms. As long as you hold STK atoms in your wallet, you keep accruing P atoms as rewards. You can choose to take your STK atom to Sushi and supply it to the STK atom ETH pool on Sushi. And then you can take your STK atom ETH Sushi LP token, bring it back and stake it on the pstake platform. On the stake LP, if you click on the stake LP button, there's a place to stake your LP tokens. Kind of similar to folks who might be using Osmosis, stake their LP tokens after having provided liquidity. And that's how you liquidity mine pstake coins. So that's what exists today. There are a few things that we're focusing on right now. One is asset expansion. So in addition to having atoms, having other assets, so XPRT, AKT, INJ, Band are some of the foundations that we've been in touch with, and over the next few months we'll be launching assets for these chains and coins. The second thing is we're starting to integrate after bootstrapping liquidity on a DEX. The other use case for these staked representative coins is to create borrowing lending markets. And so that's something that we're going to try and do, which is going to be a first again, because you're earning staking rewards in your atoms and you're being able to borrow against that. And so that's something that we're going to be doing, not just for atoms, but some of the other staked representative coins that we're going to be issuing. So if you think in terms of sort of money Legos, the asset issuance of the STK assets is sort of the first step. Second step is creating sufficient liquidity for these assets on DEXs. The third step is creating borrowing lending markets. And then ultimately, you want to get to a point where you have proof of stake coin indexes, right? Or passive strategies where, you're sort of betting on, POS as a whole to go up while also earning fixed income through the staking rewards that you're getting. And so you can have vaults and indexes. And so that's sort of the final piece that we can think of in terms of Legos. Obviously, you can have options and insurance and all sorts of fancy things, but high level, this is what the trajectory looks like for multiple assets. And of course, right now we're focused on the Tenement ecosystem. We're not Bitcoin maximalists or Ethereum maximalists. We're interoperability maximalists, and we believe in the interchain world. So we want to do that for other ecosystems as well. So not just Tenement, but essentially go after other markets that have a substantial addressable market. And overall goal is to drive essentially build products that folks will enjoy using, and essentially help other coins build greater liquidity, have get more folks excited about staking, and gamify the whole process of staking itself.
The future of DeFi, people. Tell your
Boom.
friends if you're watching this show. Tell people that if they want to peer into the future of the next 12 months, you got to watch this show right here. Okay, so we did start a little bit late, and we are going to hit the 1 hour mark in the next 8 minutes. And so I'm going to take some questions from Twitter, and then we'll ask that here, and then we'll make some closing remarks. Bunny Money asks, did Persistence distribute the coins already? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the tweet. Hope so, because I didn't receive any.
No, so the pstake token generation event hasn't happened yet, and as soon as that happens, we'll be distributing the coins right after that. So the airdrop is sort of, we are just collecting addresses right now, addresses of people who are eligible for this airdrop. As soon as we have those addresses and the token generation happens, we'll be distributing the tokens.
Yeah, and
Trying-
on to add that everyone who wants to check if they're eligible, please do go to airdrop.pstake.finance to make sure that you claim it on time before TGE, so that you receive the. You just have to do the same magic transaction as Mikkel explained earlier to make sure that you will receive these pstake tokens in your ERC20 address.
Okay, so it's not too late. That's what you're telling them.
Absolutely. I mean, and the process is live and will be live till TGE. So it's just, again, a reminder, everyone who is staking or holding atoms or XPRT on 2nd of September is eligible to this airdrop. And it's not just for XPRT and Atom holders. If anyone outside of Ethereum community is listening, we're also doing an airdrop for Xsushi, STK, and looking at more ways to cover CRV users as well. And we will be sharing more details on that in a coming week or so.
Tranquil asks if we have stake Atom on official site, are we eligible?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're staking it via non-custodial wallet, yes, you're eligible.
Elon's Doge asks, persistence. I have almost 200 atoms staked, but it's split between 2 wallets. Does that disqualify me from the airdrop? I have over 100 atom and actively vote and participate. It's just not in a single wallet. Half is on Kepler and half is on Cosmos.
Depends on how much you have in each wallet. If it's 100, sure, you're eligible. If not, that's a tricky one. I know the requirements might seem a bit,
Okay.
The minimum requirements might seem a bit odd, but the reason behind that is we don't foresee a lot of, smaller holders using the product just yet because of high gas fees on Ethereum. But, we do have a strategic reserve for airdrops if you've read through the blog. So you know what you have to do. And, in the future, when we are about to, issue assets onto a Cosmos based chain, we'll be doing something more. Yeah, so that's an alpha leak right there.
Milan asks, oh,
Is my internet a bit slow, or is Django having
Hello?
some connectivity issues?
I think so. It's on Chengo's end.
Yeah.
Did I freeze
Django,
you
you're
guys?
probably having some. Yeah, you're probably having some connectivity issues.
Hi. Am I back on?
Yep. Yeah, you're back on.
Am I back on?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. Milan asks, a question for you guys: if osmosis makes the Wait, I didn't finish asking the question. Shoot, it might be my internet.
No,
Oh
no
no,
worries.
sorry.
I read the
If they
question.
make it for Atom, why use pstake if people can get LP rewards and staking rewards at the same time?
Yeah, so I think the goal with liquid staking at the end of the day is the same, right? You can get LP rewards plus staking rewards even if you use pstake. And I truly haven't looked into the details of how Osmosis is implementing this, but as far as pstake goes, it's more about not just one use case or 2 use cases, but a bunch of use cases. And it's not just about liquidity provisioning, which I think is the case with Osmosis. I might be wrong here, but it is also about you having the option to use your SDK Atom in as many DeFi applications as you want, as long as it's integrated, obviously. And that is our goal, to make sure that SDK Atom has a bunch of use cases.
Rich Wooder asks,
Chango, you're still not properly audible. Do you want to drop off and join back again or something?
if I have Atom Stake on
I can see the question that's there by Rich Wooder. And so the question is, hi, I have Atom staked on Coinbase and Kraken both being staked. Am I eligible? The answer is no. It is because we need the atoms should be staked on a non-custodial wallet such as Kepler, Cosmos Station, or any on-chain wallet, and those are eligible for the pstake airdrop.
Are you looking at more questions, Abhitej?
I think so. That's it from the question side.
Taken over from Chango.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Milan, for the encouragement. Definitely, we'll see a lot of development on the pstake side in next 3 to 6 months. And especially, it is as Tushar highlighted, one of the first priorities for us is to grow the asset issuance on pstake, and second is growing more and more use cases for different SDK tokens, such as SDK Atom, XDK XPRT, and it is making those assets more composable and trying to build up the Lego cycle, as well put by Tushar.
Hey guys, am I back on?
Yeah, a little better.
Yeah, okay. Got it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay.
No worries.
Yeah, so we took over while you were not around and answered the questions from YouTube stream.
Perfect. And I hope everybody in the audience got what they were looking for. So sorry again about that. So yeah, let's do some closing remarks. What do you guys want to close with, and how do people find you in the Twitter and internet space after the show ends?
I think so. As far as finding persistence, you can go to Twitter and go to persistence1, which is spelled without any space or any special character in between, just persistence1. And if needed, I can drop it in the stream as well. If you want to join our Telegram community, it's persistence1 chat. You can look out. And I think so best to connect with all different communities. You could just go to persistence.one, our website, and you will see all of the social handles right out there, our community, our forum. If you have any doubts, any questions, any suggestions, we always encourage people to write down those on forum. And we're trying to actively connect with community, receive feedback on our forums. And similarly, if you're looking to engage with pstake, then you can just go to pstake, where pstake.finance, and where we again have a forum just specifically catering to the pstake suggestions and pstake announcements. and as well as all the pstake social handles again listed at pstake.finance. For application, you can go to app.pstake.finance directly and access it. As for, I think so, closing marks, there's a lot of things happening around in persistence ecosystem, as well as, and this is in tandem with Cosmos ecosystem. What we're trying to do is bring multiple things into Cosmos ecosystem. One of them starting as liquid staking. Other one, what you're trying to do is create, we have already worked along with Interchain Foundation, IXO, and multiple other Cosmos-based projects to establish interchain NFT standards, which will be basically an umbrella standard to accommodate different standards such as ERC 721, PP 721, and eventually multiple standards to create something very similar to what happened in Ethereum with CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks in 2017 and establishment of ERC 721 standard. I think so. We are seeing these NFT use cases spin up in Cosmos ecosystem, and we will see a lot of adoption. And trying to create an interchain NFT standard was one of the key things, which is already done. And now what we are trying to do is create frameworks and make it creating marketplaces that are IBC enabled much more simpler for in the Cosmos ecosystem. That is something I think so we didn't touch upon a lot in this conversation, but you guys can go ahead and look on about that on internft.org. Apart from that, right now it's most exciting is, I think so for us, pstake, and Mikhail can give a quick overview of what's coming next with that regard. And I see you on everyone on the other side.
Yeah, before we jump off, like pstake, I think what you'll be seeing is, a bunch of these Cosmos-based assets that you want to use for generating additional yield. You'd be able to do that very soon. This is like the highest priority stuff on our roadmap, apart from obviously building liquidity and use cases. So there's a very interesting use case coming for STK Atom, which I'm sure a lot of you guys would love to see, and it's not too far away is all I can say. But really excited to see the entire Cosmos ecosystem growing, and it's beautiful to see. 1 year ago, I truly didn't I couldn't visualize this, and I know Abhitej is a huge Cosmos fan. It's taken me quite a while to truly visualize what's happening in Cosmos, and I think it's going to be a great next few months. So very excited about that. Thank you, Chango, for having us.
Totally. The universe is expanding in the cosmos as it is in space. Well,
Absolutely.
Thank you, Abtej and Mikhail, as well as Tushar, since he's off, for coming on to Interchain FM. This has been great, and I really look forward to hearing about what you guys have got in the works, especially with what you can announce with STK Atom, as well as using these Atom derivatives and other derivatives in the future to do lending and borrowing. That's probably the most exciting thing right now, especially with all the uncertainty with regulation. And yeah, we don't want to sell. We are diamond hands, hodl hands, and we just want to collateralize using our Atom and borrow from it. So yeah, thank you all for tuning into Interchain FM. We're doing these interviews with guest projects in the Cosmos ecosystem every Thursday or every other Thursday, depending on whether or not I am currently at a conference. And since in end of November, early October, a lot of us in the Cosmos ecosystem are going to be in Lisbon for the Cosmos Community Conference. We won't be airing an episode then, but we will physically be there. So hopefully for those of you who are going to be attending, I will see you there. I will be co-moderating that conference. And so I look forward to any community members that are going to be in Lisbon at that time. In the meantime, we are going to have another episode next week, which is with Injective Protocol, and they're another derivatives platform that's building a DEX that is, they're going to introduce like synthetics and derivatives, and we could do some interesting things with their platform. So learn about that next week when we talk to Eric at Injective Protocol. And yeah, we'll see you soon. See you guys in the interchain. And thank you for tuning in.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
absolutely.
Bye bye.
See you in Lisbon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And before that, since you brought it up, before that, we are hosting this sort of a party, a virtual party for the entire Cosmos ecosystem. We'll be reaching out to you too for joining us there. And this is to bring together all the Cosmos projects and OGs, as I would like to say, to cover the rise of Cosmos. Before we jump into, I say, so what we have termed it in, like, internally, it's like Cosmos season is by force going to hit. Before that, there will be a lot of people who need to know what was the rise of Cosmos, so trying to bring in everyone who's been so we have a lot of our work right now. The team has just been doing is creating archives of, like, first Jake Wan's video of, like, presenting tenement paper somewhere publicly, Sunny and Jake Wan's first interview together about building team, your interviews, and that's like we just like club them together and show what has happened, and then bring these people on to talk about how was those initial days and where we are today with these different ecosystem projects. And then, of course, everyone is off to Lisbon and Berlin to take the next chapter forward.
How fun. Yeah, would love to talk about the Cosmos Big Bang.
Yeah.
So, yeah, see you guys all in Lisbon, and thank you all for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.